I am on a mission. As I say every night, my goal is to help everyone, especially women just like me, over the age of 40, reverse prediabetes and type 2 diabetes naturally, without expensive gimmicks, without extreme dieting, and without expensive supplementation. So, one of the big questions that I got from someone who tuned in to my live was, is there more specific information on nutrition, on what they should be eating? And so I really appreciate that comment. I really appreciate the engagement. And so I'm here tonight to address, what should you be eating? What should your plate look like when you're trying to control those blood sugars? Now, what I'm going to share with you is a start, okay? It's the start of controlling your blood sugars. But reversing diabetes does take addressing multiple areas in lifestyle to successfully actually to reverse pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. But the tips I'm going to give you is the start, okay? It's the foundation of reversing pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes naturally, where you don't have to depend on medications to achieve that goal. So, what should your diet look like? So, one of the things you hear from me repeatedly and consistently, okay, because this is really the only way to do it. So, you'll hear this consistently from me, is that you should have a well balanced diet. You should not be fasting for extended periods of time. You should be eating. You need to be nourishing your body to actually control your blood sugars, believe it or not. So if you're skipping meals, if you are fasting till 12 day in midday, it's 12 midday that you're eating your first meal. I would say if your goal is to control your blood sugars, that is the wrong strategy for you. Okay. And because you have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, what the other person is doing is not necessarily applicable to you. So that's the first thing I want to say, is stop fasting. Okay. If you're going to fast, fast at night. That is the best time to fast. Okay. Our bodies are naturally meant to fast during the night. So that is when you should be fasting. Now, you're going to hear from me consistently the breakdown of what you should be eating, right? So I've heard so many times that people say, I cut out meat. I became a vegetarian. And I can tell you those things are not necessary to actually reverse blood sugar issues. Okay. It's not necessary to cut out whole food groups. Our bodies need every category of food group, or what I say, macronutrients. Okay. Our bodies need all of that to function. So we have to be feeding our bodies in the right balance. And that's the key. It's about understanding what the right balance is. So the first thing is protein. Okay. Now, if your goal, most people who are trying to combat pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, what you'll find is that your body's carrying some excess body fat, okay? Whether it's in the belly area. So what I suggest with protein is that protein should be in every meal, but it should be the leanest part of the meat, okay? So protein, you're gonna get the complete proteins, the really good proteins, the high quality proteins, you're going to get from meat, you're going to get from fish, you're going to get from egg, okay? If you're a vegetarian, then it is a little bit more challenging to get those very high quality proteins and complete proteins. It's doable. It does take a little bit more work to get up to the right number of protein that you should be getting. But for those of you who are still eating meat, then meat is your best bet. Okay. So high quality protein is important. And if you are also trying to lose excess body fat, which most people with pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes do have to shed some excess body fat, then go for lean protein. So what do I mean by lean protein? I am talking about the chicken breast. Instead of the chicken thigh, I'm talking about shrimp, which is a very lean protein. I'm talking about ground turkey, but the very lean kind. So you're going for the 93 to 7% ratio. You want egg white versus a whole egg. Now the whole egg is okay But it's really the way you can get that fat content down is by mixing some egg white in there as well. You get high quality protein and much less calories than eating, say, 4 eggs versus mixing 1 egg with an egg white. So that is protein is the foundation, should be the foundation of every meal. So you should be building all of your meals. And I'm assuming you're eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you should be building your meals around the protein. Okay. So building your meals around protein. Now, how much protein, right? And so they say zero point 0.8 grams of protein per pound of goal body weight is probably a good starting point. So, do the math there and make sure that you are keeping track of how much protein you're putting on your plate and if you're hitting that goal. Okay. So, protein is king here. Protein is really important in controlling blood sugars. The second area that most people lack is fiber. We're not getting enough fiber, guys. And because we're not getting enough fiber, when we eat our foods, our blood sugar is spiking super high. Fiber plays such an important role with controlling blood sugar because it allows just a very slow increase in our blood sugar rather than these high spikes. So, fiber is really important. You should be getting at least 25 grams of fiber for the day. 25 grams of fiber is what you should be aiming for. Keep in mind, if you're getting enough fiber, you need to be drinking enough water as well. Okay. Fiber and water work hand in hand because fiber does help with blood sugar control. It's actually very critical, but fiber is so important for gut health as well. It's really important for gut health. So fiber is super important, and most of us are not getting enough fiber. So where can you get fiber? You can get fiber in your leafy greens, vegetables. That's the best natural source. So think of vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. Those are really good sources of fiber. So we should be incorporating those type of vegetables into our meals. Every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner should have high fiber. And so vegetables are the easiest way to get that. Other good sources of fiber would include flax seeds, so seeds. Flax seeds are really good. Chia seeds are really good. So if you like yogurt in the morning, sprinkle some chia seeds on your yogurt or sprinkle some flax seeds on your yogurt. And that's an excellent way to get some extra fiber in. Okay, so fiber is critical. So do an audit of how you're eating right now. If you're not getting 25 grams of fiber a day, there is one big adjustment that you can make. Okay, so we talked about protein, we've talked about fiber. Now, carbohydrates, this one is big, right? The type 2 diabetes and prediabetes is a disease of how our body handles carbs, right? Carbs, every carb that we eat breaks down to sugar. That is what ultimately causes our blood sugars to go up. So there's a lot of confusion. Should I cut carbs out completely? Am I okay to eat carbs? Can I eat bread still? Can I eat rice still? So our bodies do need carbs, okay? Our brains need carbohydrates to function. Our brain needs glucose. So we still should be getting carbs in. But the question that you should be asking yourself is, what is the source of your carbs? Complex carbohydrates are the best source when it comes to controlling prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. So, again, as someone with blood sugar issues, you cannot look at the other person who's living a healthy lifestyle and say, well, they're having rice on their plate. So, white rice on their plate, so they're good. Remember, someone who does not have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes can tolerate some white rice, but you are not able to. So, I would say, one big adjustment to make is cut out white rice, cut out white bread, cut out anything that's white. I would even cut out Irish potatoes at this point. So complex carbohydrates, the best ones to go for example, sweet potato. It's a really good source of complex carbohydrates, high in fiber, and it does not spike your blood sugar as much as the white bread, the white rice. That is, you might as well be eating glucose straight up or sugar straight up when you're eating white rice. So if you're eating white rice and you're a diabetic or you're pre-diabetic, there's one easy adjustment you can make. Now, if you don't want to cut rice out of your diet or bread out of your diet cold turkey, then what I would suggest is switch to brown, and make sure when it's brown, it's a high quality brown rice. So as very as not as processed, okay? So it should be high in fiber, again, should have higher protein content. So you want to go for those. A good example of a bread that you should be eating is Ezekiel bread. Okay, Ezekiel bread is, again, easily digestible. It's less processed, and it has high fiber, and does not spike your blood sugar. So those are my two suggestions: is go for a bread that is brown, okay, high fiber. Now, is all brown bread good? No. Pay attention to the labels. Make sure it's high in fiber. High, should have higher protein content. So a high fiber content for a bread would be, let's say, 4 to 5 grams per slice. That's a good bread. If it has about 5 to 6 grams of protein, that's a good bread. If it has some seeds in it, things that are going to offer you that fiber, that's a good bread. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you don't want to cut out white, rice completely, go to brown everything: brown bread, brown rice. Pasta is another food that gets us into trouble as well. It's a carbohydrate that spikes our blood sugar tremendously. So again, I would cut pasta out completely. If you want to have some pasta, again, high fiber, high protein pastas. Um, so carbohydrates, it's okay to have your carbohydrates, but remember, high quality, complex carbohydrates. Another thing that's really important is to understand how much carbs your body needs. That is a difficult question to answer here. It's something that I help the women I work with directly figure out, because it's a very individualized number. Exactly how much carbs you should be getting in every day is a very individualized number, and we go through the calculations and figure that out. So just have at least a general understanding that you should be cutting carbs down. You don't have to cut them out completely, but the carbs that you're getting in should be high quality, complex carbs. How do you know it's a complex carb? High in fiber, maybe even it's high in fiber, so brown everything, right? Um, Now, another source of carbohydrates that I wanted to point out is your vegetables. Believe it or not, your vegetables are a source of carbohydrate. So if you focus on getting your carbohydrates through your vegetables, you're actually in good shape. Okay. It's very unlikely you're going to be overshooting the amount of carbohydrates you should be eating. So the vegetables that you can focus on is your kale. You can focus on asparagus, Brussels sprouts, squashes. Squashes are really good. And any leafy green, pretty much your bok chow. So all of those are really good options for controlling blood sugar and getting some carbs in. Okay, so pay attention to those food labels. Everything I've told you so far, you notice I'm using grams, and I'm telling you what in grams you should be having. So food labels are really important, paying attention to them to understand what is in there, how much fiber is in there, how much added sugar is in there. But you can't go wrong by using vegetables as your source of carbs. Now, lastly, are your healthy fats. So again, the formula doesn't change. Every night that I'm here, I'm going to be preaching the same thing. There are bad fats, and very likely, if you have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, you are also struggling with bad cholesterol. You have a low HDL, you have a high LDL, you might have a high total cholesterol, you might have high triglycerides. So, unfortunately, that comes hand in hand with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes, unfortunately. So many people out there who are battling blood sugar issues are already on medications for cholesterol. And the diets, the foods, and the nutrition that I'm talking about today is actually addresses cholesterol issues as well. So one of the big things when it comes to fats is eating healthy fats, because our cholesterol gets into a lot of trouble if we're not focused on the right fats. Now, another big mistake that I see is people are cutting fat out completely. They're going low fat everything. And what I would say is that your body needs fat. You're messing up hormones. You're messing up your ability to think clearly when you're not getting enough fat in your body. Your body needs fat to function. So, what are healthy fats? So, I want you to go through your cabinet tonight. If you have vegetable oil in there, if you have canola oil in there, if you have some kind of a seed oil, get rid of it. That is not good. It's considered bad. It causes lots of inflammation in the body, and it clogs up the arteries a whole lot more. So vegetable oil, canola oil, any kind of seed oil, get rid of those. Those are not going to help you control blood sugars. It's not going to help you with your cholesterol levels either. What I want you to replace it with, olive oil. I think we all know that. So olive oil is something you should have in your cabinet. You should have avocado, or you can use avocado oil as well as an alternative. So olive oil, avocado oil are good options to have. And if you're going to cook with them, then you cook sparingly. You cook sparingly. Pay attention. Don't just pour into your frying pan. You really have to pay attention to how much you're putting in your food. All right. So those are your good fats. Go through your cabinet tonight. And if you have anything other than that, then I would say get rid of it. The other thing is butter. Okay. So butter has been villainized to some extent, and you have to be careful about how much butter. But if you are having grass fed butter, that is definitely a better option. So I say you can have butter, but grass fed butter only. It's high quality, it's less processed. And so grass fed butter is okay. And make sure that you are prepared. If you're using it sparingly. You're not cutting a whole quarter off, but you're putting just a little bit on your food. You might be glazing your asparagus or glazing your Brussels sprouts with it. So, grass-fed butter is also a good source. Now, other sources of good fats are your seeds. So we talked about flax seeds. We talked about chia seeds. We talked about there's so many seeds out there. There is the pumpkin seeds, which is a favorite of mine. I put that in my yogurt. There are sunflower seeds. So those seeds, of course, we can't miss our almonds or cashews. So those are really good complementary snacks to put in our salads or meals. Be careful. A lot of people get in trouble with the nuts like cashews, because we can easily overdo it. So be careful about how much you're eating. Be cognizant of how much of the nuts that you're having. But those are also sources of good fats. Now, lastly, I just wanted to cover what your plate should look like, right? I've broken down each food group. I've given examples of what you should have from each of those food groups. But what should your plate look like? What should the balance look like? So let's help you build that plate. So, as a challenge, tonight and tomorrow, going forward for the rest of the week, I want you to pay attention to how you're arranging your plate. And the first thing when you're planning your meals, I want you to start with the protein. Okay. So many of us are missing protein, and that is why we lack strength. That's why our protein or our hormones are out of whack. We're hungry every minute, or cravings are through the roof. It's because we're not having enough protein. So on that plate, I want you to make sure 1/4 of your plate is filled with a protein. Okay. If you're willing to weigh, then aim for 30 grams of protein with each meal. Okay. So 1/4 of your plate should have a high quality protein on there. High quality means a meat, a fish, a shrimp, or egg. Okay. So protein, that's what your meal planning should start with. Every meal you think about this week, there should be a protein in there. The next is I want you to think about putting a vegetable, incorporating vegetables in every one of your meals, every single one of your meals. It can be a cooked vegetable, it can be a sauteed vegetable, but I want you to have vegetables with every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's critical. So many of us are missing that component. You will build up not only you'll get your fiber in, but you'll get your antioxidants in, you'll get your minerals in, you'll get your vitamins in. A lot of us are actually vitamin and mineral deficient because we're not getting enough high quality food in. So I want you to challenge yourself this week. What vegetable am I going to be having? Whether you have spinach with your eggs, that's a good idea. So incorporate a vegetable with every meal. Spinach with egg and for breakfast, for lunch, a kale salad, for dinner, asparagus and a protein. Okay. Now, another part that we have to keep in mind, and remember, your vegetables can double as carbs, but if you're going to have a carb, make sure it's a high quality carb. So so let's say for breakfast, if you have that spinach and egg, and you want a carb on the side, it needs to be a complex carb. Okay. So, me personally, I have a sweet potato, a slice of sweet potato with my breakfast. But something that you can also have is you can also have um, the Ezekiel bread, a slice of Ezekiel bread. Let me plug in my computer. It's about to go. Okay. So you can have Ezekiel bread, okay, with your egg and spinach, okay? So don't have white bread. I'm Jamaican, so I can tell you hardo bread used to be one of my big favorites. Hardo bread, though it tastes good, is not good for blood sugar control. So if you're doing a hardo bread or a white bread, go skip that and go for a complex carb, a complex bread. It should be brown. It should have lots of seeds in it because that's where you're going to get the fiber and the good fats. Okay. Now, good fats. Good fats you can get in several ways. So I would say the good fats, you can saute your vegetables with olive oil. You can drizzle some olive oil on there. So the way you get your fats in is not necessarily going to take up a portion of your plate, but it's really important to understand how much of it you're having, okay? Because how much fat you're getting into your body, you need it, but it's important to pay attention to how much. So I would say if you're gonna have a healthy fat, you can't go wrong with avocado slices. So if avocado can fill your plate, it's gonna be that last quarter of your plate. So quarter of your plate should be protein, half of your plate should be complex carb and leafy greens, and then a quarter of your servings or your intake should be healthy fats. So avocado is an excellent example. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but avocados, you can replace cheese and butter with avocados. So I use avocado as dressings for my salad. It's really good. And so avocado is a healthy option. Avocado is also very high in fiber. Okay. Um, Now, just to cover a few other things, 1 second. Okay. So, just to cover a few other areas, a few other questions that come up frequently for me. Fruits. Can you have fruit? Yes. If you are diabetic, fruit is okay because fruit is where you're going to get antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. So it does help, but you have to be careful which fruits. So berries, you can't go wrong with the berries, strawberry, raspberry, blueberries, blackberries. Berries are a good, safe starting point for better blood sugar control. So for right now, I would say berries. It is mango season, guys. I know my daughter loves her mangoes. I know I have a basket full of mangoes right now. But again, if you are pre diabetic or type 2 diabetic, mangoes, unfortunately, it's not time. Okay. You need to get along in reversing your blood sugars significantly before you can indulge in those fruits. So I would say hold off on the mango, hold off on bananas. Those have higher glycemic index and spike your blood sugar a whole lot more. So fruits are okay. Go for low glycemic fruits. So, one example of low glycemic fruit are your berries. You can't go wrong there. Juice. Can you have juice? I would say it's an easy thing to cut out. Don't have juice. So, for example, there is carrot juice, right? A question that I get is the pure carrot juice that they have. It's really a concentrated, right? You juice the actual carrot. Yes, it's coming from the actual carrot. It's not as processed, but it's highly concentrated with those fruit juices. So it's really not a good option even to have those natural juices because it's highly concentrated with sugar. If you're gonna have anything, have the fruit, have the vegetable, okay? But I would say it's an easy thing to cut out. Go for water, lots of water. Spring water is preferable, but go for water, okay? Easy thing to cut out. So if you're prioritizing blood sugar, no juice, no juice. And of course, I know a lot of the women who come to me have already cut out soda. They've already done really good things. So I know a lot of you who are watching this have already cut out those common sense things, but I would say the natural juices and the juicing can actually get you into trouble. So be careful. Now, that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So I hope those tips were helpful. I hope that you're able to do that this week. So I am challenging you to make these changes to your diet. You make these changes and then let me know how it worked. You should see an improvement in your blood sugars if you eat consistently, just like the way I explained. Now, one thing I want to let you know is this is a start, okay? Nutrition is the start to reversing your numbers naturally. However, what I would say is that it's a start. There's so many other components that go into reversing. So we're talking about getting your blood sugars better, but there's a few other components that I always talk about because the formula never changes. And the formula is nutrition, number one, that is your foundation. But there's also physical activity. You'll hear me talk a lot about implementing walking, and there's a few other tricks and trades that we use personally that I use with my clients. So if you want to really commit to reversing your numbers, I would say give us a call. There's opportunity for a free 15-minute discovery call to figure out if we're a good fit and to figure out if you're truly committed to reversing type 2 diabetes, not just managing it, but actually overcoming it, getting your numbers down, and freeing you from the stress of having it, from the risk of being on more and more medications, from the risk of complications. So, again, I hope everything I explained here was helpful. Please implement it this week. Take these action steps, and I promise you, you're going to see a change with your blood sugars. And I hope to see you the next time I'm tuned in. I try to be here every single night to give you the tips that's going to empower you to reverse prediabetes and type 2 diabetes naturally. If you have any further questions or if there's any topic you want me to cover, then please drop it in the comments below this live and I will definitely log on. So I want to send a shout out to the person who asked me about more specifics on diet, and I hope it was helpful. All right, guys, have a good night.